Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tomcat Sport Cards on YouTube. Really excited to talk about collecting goaltenders only because that is a big passion of mine. And I thought I'd bring a couple of friends along, fellow goalie collectors, to talk about goalie collecting and their collections as well. If you've been on Instagram and you're on part of that hockey community, you probably know both these guys, but now you get a chance to meet them. So first off, Andy, Pix Collector, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing really, really well. Been looking forward to this for a long time, meeting you and Nick in person. So I'm pumped and I'm honored to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for agreeing to come on here, man. Really excited to hear about that collection for sure, especially because you're collecting maybe a lesser known player among, the general fans, which makes it more exciting because it means there's probably some kind of a personal connection in there, and can't wait to hear
Yeah.
about that stuff. And now Nick got him on too. He's been on this channel once before, but it's so long ago that I don't even know if I remember everything that he said. So we're going to refresh it. Nick is Tom Barrasso Master Collector on YouTube, or excuse me, Instagram, and has an amazing collection. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Matt. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. No, it's nice to see you again, man, because we had some fun
Same.
kind of scratching under the surface of the Barrasso collection, but I feel like we'll be able to get to it in more detail today and give people a chance to maybe learn about the collection a bit more. But I guess I'll start with this question. Now, how's it been for you guys this year? Coming off of COVID, things are starting to calm down. Do you feel like, Andy, I'll start with you. Do you feel like it's starting to ramp up a little bit more with the collecting, or do you think it's starting to kind of like, balance out, relax now that our free money from the government isn't coming in anymore?
Right. Oh gosh. I think at the start of the pandemic, it was just something that I was looking to do. Like I was always picking up Calvin Pickard cards for the PC, but I think I got a little more heavily into Young Guns during that time. Just me and a few buddies just decided, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and of course, blowing that government money bit by bit, but it was fun. It kind of kept us in the loop, and I think now as everyone's going back to school to work, I think personally I've slowed down a little bit just because I am a master's student, so have to prioritize my time towards school, but it's still fun. As I think that's the most important thing is if we have fun doing it, then it's well worth it.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you there, man. And I think that's something that's been great about watching both your collections grow is I can tell you're both still really having fun. Nick, I think, if I can say this, Nick and Andy, you both have a very almost complete collection of these players. I mean, pretty darn close, but I can tell that you both are still having fun when those cards do come in, and you get even a base card that you've been looking for 6 months, one that you haven't been able to find. So that's definitely exciting to see. Now, Nick, I've been, if anybody follows you on Instagram, they've been noticing you've been really getting those binders put together recently, and us being able to see like those complete runs. Was that a goal kind of going into this year to kind of finalize and fill some of those gaps?
Yes and no. My basement was kind of a mess. The first year and a half that my wife and I have been in this house. And I've never really been able to go through and look at all my cards because they weren't organized the best. Like I had all that stuff in a binder, but like I mentioned in the other video, it was beat up, and some pages were ripped, and the front of the binder was coming off. And I just figured, if anybody's gonna, not that I care what anyone thinks really, but if people were gonna go through and just see a hodgepodge of cards, it might not be as impressive as me saying, hey, these cards go with these cards.
Mm-hmm.
This whole rainbow, this is a partial rainbow, this is this is that. So yes and no, but yeah, it's nice to go through and have my binder not look like a mess.
It kind of like you're describing all of our binders when we were kids, you know what I mean? Because we only had the one binder. We weren't going to afford, 5 or 6 one, looking over in the shelf like, oh yeah, that binder's for that binder's for that. It just was all in there, and I think it's cool though, looking at that. Like I'm guessing Andy has his collection like this too, but I've always thought to myself, organization is really key when somebody who really doesn't know about cards can hold that in their hand and go, oh, okay, like I can see chronologically these cards in order, and I can tell that these are the beginning of his career toward the end of his career type thing. And I always felt like that is important, you know, that if somebody's going to look at it that doesn't really know what they're looking at necessarily, they can still be entertained or enjoy what they're looking at. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, I'm kind of curious because we've heard from Nick a little bit. We're definitely going to hear your story again, but when you see player collectors on Instagram, you can tell they're very passionate about collecting one player specifically. There's always this, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but I think, why is that? You know, like, is it a connection with a parent? Is it they like the way their mask looked? You know, like when it comes to goalies, that they met them in person. There's all sorts of reasons that I've heard. But, you know, Andy, I'm curious. Calvin Pickard, he's a goalie that, if you're not a hockey fan and you haven't, you know, collected rookies, for instance, and you want a rookie of every goalie or did fantasy hockey like me, that's how I know who he is. They might not know who he is. So where did the collection, like, why did you decide to start collecting Calvin Pickard of all people?
Oh man, it's a long story, and I'll try to keep it interesting. But
Cliff Note version, dude.
Absolutely. So it all started back in 2009. I was watching his brother Chet play at the World Juniors, and we all remember that World Juniors for being the Jordan Eberle game-tying goal. So I followed Chet for a little bit in Tri-City, learned that he had a brother who played for Seattle, who got drafted to Colorado the following year, being my favorite team. So I picked up a few cards in the game set, the prospect stuff. Didn't spend a whole lot of my money because I was about 17, 18 at the time. But it wasn't until he started playing for Colorado that I really picked up on him. And I'll always remember this for as long as I live. I was picking up a new pair of pads around the time I was 22, 23, getting back into goaltending, and I was picking them up at this rink, and Calvin Pickard was doing a signing there that very day that I was picking up that new set of pads. So it was incredible. Like, I do drawings on the side as well. I'll make sure to upload some of those on Instagram.
Yeah,
he signed them, loved them, and I remember him asking who my favorite player was, and I was like, you. And I think the whole area just kind of started laughing. People started smiling and everything.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, when he was with the Marlies, he picked me out of a crowd, recognized me. Was back home for a game here in Winnipeg, and he waved me over to the tunnel, and we just stood there talking for a few minutes, and I'd already started collecting him at the time, but I think that was the moment where I realized I picked the right guy.
Right. No, that's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, just hearing that personal connection, I mean, you can just see like it getting deeper and deeper ingrained, like this is going to happen, you know, like this, it's a perfect choice. And to be able to meet that hockey player that you're collecting, I think is something that I would still love to do personally, just because I know how much fun those hockey players are in general to talk to, especially goalies, right? Like, they always say goalies are weird, but like, I'm sure they would be the most fascinating to talk to. No offense to any of the skaters, but they just see the game in a completely different way, as opposed to, you know, talking to Mario Lemieux. Not that wouldn't be cool, or Forsberg or whoever, but that's amazing, man. Now, has he seen your collection on Instagram? Does he follow you or anything?
I don't think so, but he has seen most of the drawings I've done of him.
That's cool, man. And yeah, we got to see those. I'm a big art fan, especially with goaltending. The art is amazing, right? There's so much detail you can already put on there with the mask and stuff. So got to see that. Cool, man. Awesome. Well, Nick, I mean, I don't remember you saying anything similar along those lines, but you know, if I may just interject, Tom Barrasso was the first goalie that I remember by name as a kid. And so I'm curious where that connection came from. If you can refresh everyone's memory, where did the decision start with that?
First of all, I don't have anywhere near as cool a story as Andy has.
Not me either. Don't worry.
Really, lifelong Penguins fan. You know, played hockey my whole life up until late teens, early 20s. But just as a kid. A huge Penguins fan. He was my favorite player and was always my favorite player. And then when he got traded to Ottawa, he was still my favorite player, but kind of not, because he was on a different team, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then I was thinking about this earlier today. I wish I could actually remember what made me get back into collecting in 2011, but I really can't. Like, I don't know if I'm thinking I was on eBay and then it just popped into my head. Let's see what kind of cards Tom Barrasso has. And I saw a bunch of his game used cards and thought that was cool. I really think that's it. It's really nothing. Like I said earlier, nowhere near as cool as Andy. So,
right.
Never met the guy or anything like that. So,
well, he's coaching overseas, isn't he, or something like that? Still,
he the last I knew, he was coaching in England. He coached in Italy for a little bit after coaching in Russia. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's still the coach of that British team, but last I knew he was.
Okay, because I did watch some interviews, and I knowing who Barrasso is, but wanting to know the person more than the goaltender. I really wanted to kind of get a feeling of what type of person he is, and he seems like a pretty down to earth guy now that he's not on the ice anymore. But a guy that as a coach could be pretty fiery if needed.
Right. I mean, when he was in the league, he was. He had the nickname Barasshole because he was aged a lot of people, and I get it. But if you ever, there's a interview with him on YouTube where he discusses his choice to essentially be silent with the media, and he comes off as very intelligent, very well spoken, educated guy.
Right.
So I was impressed. He had. Hockey players have always been robots in interviews, and whereas he wasn't like, flamboyant or anything like that, or extreme in his personality. He talked with some emotion, but still came off as intelligent, and he was very well spoken. So that was cool to see.
Right, awesome. Now you just reminded me to ask Andy too. Andy, where is Calvin Pickard now? Like, is he coaching somewhere or?
I believe he is still in the Detroit organization. I think he signed, I could be wrong, but I think he signed a 1-year extension this year to stay in Detroit.
Okay.
So he'll be with Detroit or the farm team Grand Rapids next year.
So like actually playing for them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Having a chat. Oh, cool. That would be really cool. I mean, especially with a team like Detroit. I mean, I know they got Jonathan Bernier there. Thomas, is Grice still there as well?
They just traded for that the goalie from Carolina, Nedeljkovic.
Oh,
so they got him.
Right. Totally not even thinking about it.
And what's weird? Yeah,
it was. I was really surprised because I watched obviously Vegas a lot, Carolina and Pittsburgh, and I really like Sebastian Aho. Like I just love watching that guy play. But I mean, Alex Nedeljkovic was amazing for them, and to think that they were just going to automatically just let him go.
Yeah, like, third round pick, I think. That's all it cost for Yzerman to land him, and you know what, Yzerman landing another great prospect goalie in Sebastian Cossa. I think he's one to watch down the line.
Right. Well, in terms of how that affects Calvin, though, I assume like guys like that, I think they still love to play the game, but it would be great for him to become like the goalie development, like the developmental goalie coach for them or for Colorado or somebody down the road. I know those type of players like Chiodo for the Penguins. He's moved up in the ranks as a goalie coach, starting at the bottom. And I think, is he their goalie coach now? I believe he is, right? The Penguins goalie coach. So that's years in the making. And I remember when he made the team and played like 2 games with a barely like white mask, nothing on it. And, but you know, it would be cool to see him eventually go there, especially because he'd probably be much more approachable down the road if you ever got a chance to hang out and talk again. But I mean, Nick, you mentioned robotic in interviews. I think that's a lot of what people, what draw people to Marc-Andre Fleury is because he likes to be goofy and have fun. And I was just watching a replay of an interview where Jonathan Marchessault had a hat trick in that playoff game against Colorado. And there was a guy moving a chair in the background. You could hear, and like, he's like, dude, are you done? And of course, who would it be? Right. So, yeah, of course it was. So he's a big jokester, but I feel like he always is having fun when he's playing the game and during interviews. After losses, he takes them pretty tough, but I feel like his passion and love for the game. I mean, how many goalies make a save and stand up and are grinning behind their mask? Like, I just dove across the ice and made the best glove save ever, and I'll just stand up and laugh about it. Like, I think his he's not childish, but he's always having a great time. He's relaxed out on the ice. I know Garrett Sparks talked about that too in an interview, how he took that from Fleury when he played in Vegas, just how much fun he has out there and how loose he's able to stay. And Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons I could say why I collect Fleury, but he was drafted by the Penguins. I'm a Penguins fan at heart. He was the first overall pick. I'm a goalie fan, and just everything about him, who he is off the ice means a lot to me as a teacher. How he portrays himself to youth, people that look up to these players, and I think that's really important. He's not out there like other goalies and other players who are, I won't name names besides maybe the guy on Tampa. What's that player, Kucherov? His interview after the Cup, bless his heart. I know he was drunk, but he had no shirt, and he was, oh yeah, that goalie from Vegas. I can't remember his name. I'm like, dude, come on now, man. Like, I like the way that when players carry themselves with a little more class, and I feel
I'll have to search that. I didn't see that interview. That kind of sucks because I always kind of liked Kucherov. Like, I don't really watch any other teams, but I always kind of liked him.
He's a hell of a player.
Because his nickname is Cooch. I think that's funny. And he's a hell of a player. And then it's a shame to hear that he said something like that.
You're in the moment, but he's up there doing a press conference with no shirt on already. So I'm like, all right, J.R. Smith did that, whatever, we can get over it. But to be up there and the goalie who literally just was announced as the Vezina winner a week before, to be up on the podium and we got the best goalie in the NHL. That some guy from Vegas wanted the Vezina this year. He should have won it. I'm like, dude, you got to be better than that. Yeah, but he's a hell of a player. But after that interview, I was like, I hope that you never score on Fleury ever again, pal. Get ready. But
highly unprofessional.
But I just brought that up to say, like, even when Fleury loses, he goes up there and faces the music. He's not pouting. He answers the question. He's upset, but I feel like Tom was the same, and I have to watch what Calvin was like in interviews. But I feel like we wouldn't collect our goalies if they were, if I could say it on this channel, kind of pieces of shit deep down. Like if they just weren't good people, for him to pull you aside, Andy, and just chat with you, like that cemented it right there for me. Man.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Says a lot about the guy,
Yeah, just great human being. Every time I've seen him in person, just super nice. Always ask me how I'm doing, how what's going on. Guys in the locker room, they love him. Mm-hmm. I think when he got married here in Winnipeg, I heard something about them secretly flying in like McKinnon and Crosby and McDavid. So it just kind of shows you how well liked he is if big guys are coming in just for his wedding. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I imagine, Nick, I would be fascinating. Like if you had a chance to meet Tom, and I don't know how you are with this, but I've always felt like if I got to meet my favorite player, I'd love to just sit down and talk. I don't need autographs or pictures necessarily. I'd just like to sit down and talk about the game.
Yeah.
Yep. And Tom being a coach and a goalie for that long, dude, his stories must be just endlessly fascinating,
Exactly. Playing for as long as he did, because he played for 83, 84 to 02, 03 was his last year. He took 1 year off in there, but that's, off the top of my head, 21-year career. Then he coached in he was an assistant in the NHL, and then he was an assistant in the AHL, has coached in 3 different leagues in Europe. So he's certainly well-traveled in that aspect. So as you said, I'm sure he's got some great stories.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That's a dream of mine. I'm sure we can all agree. It would be awesome just to sit down for like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and just sit and just talk and not even really, think about anything, just kind of see where it goes and talk about the game. But cool. Well, I think those are some pretty good introductions to why we collect the players we do. I mean, I'll throw in too, I love my goalie's setup. I think his setups are always fire. And I have to share this. I haven't shared this with anybody, but I was lucky enough to get a hold of his mask designer on Instagram. And I asked him, I said, are we going to see the mask soon? And he said, yes, I just shipped it to him 2 days ago. So you'll see it in about a week. So I'm pretty excited to see what his artist came up with for Chicago. I really am. But let's kind of start from this point here. Do either of you remember your first card of this player, of Brasso or Calvin Pickard? Or first, like one of the first cards, like any of them come to mind?
I want to say I do remember. I think it was like 08, 09. It was a jersey card from the Super Series. Okay. And he was wearing his in the photo he's wearing his silver pads that he wore with Seattle. And it was
for the Seattle Thunderbirds, right?
Yeah, Seattle Thunderbirds.
Nice. Okay.
The swatch was red and white. And yeah, just a really cool card that I bought on my dad's eBay account for like $1 plus 3 shipping. So,
Nice.
I'm happy with
Those-
that.
Nice. That's cool, man. I have to, if it's on your account, you'd have to tag me in it because I was born in the Everett area, and my first hockey game was the Thunderbirds game, my first ever hockey game.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I remember that. And I love their colors, dude. Like you imagine like a patch from the Thunderbird would be just like the sickest thing ever. Cool. What about you, Nick? Do you remember like one of the first, you said jersey cards were where you were at the beginning. Do you remember some of the first ones?
I know I had his 91, 92 Pro Set card when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Pulled that back. That probably was the first one I had, but I can't say for sure. I do remember, I think I mentioned it in the video I posted yesterday, the 02-03 Upper Deck Challenge for the Cup game used. I think that was I'm almost positive that was the first game used card I got of his.
Okay, so I mean, that was like the first one on eBay that you clicked the button.
Yeah,
to buy it now. Okay,
I think I bought like $3 or $4, and it nothing special about the card, but it's cool that that one happened to be the first game used card that I got. So
right. Well, definitely. I think we're talking about game used. I think I remember buying my first Fleury game. It was probably just an Upper Deck jersey card, but coming from baseball and having collected A-Rod for years, which, by the way, I've had so much fun. Also, a lot of stress selling everything the last few days to try to just buy Fleury cards. But the game-used cards in hockey, I think we can all agree, especially for goalies, man, they're just awesome. Like, even if you get a little napkin piece, they're actually game-used. Like, coming from the baseball and seeing Panini with their basketball and football event-worn, hockey is doing it right.
Yep.
So I'll both of you, whoever wants to answer first, when you see just a plain jersey card, if you don't own it yet, is there even any hesitation to try to go get it just because it's a plain little napkin piece? I mean,
if it's a Brasso card I need and it's cheap, then I'll get it. But not really big into collecting duplicates unless it's like a multicolored patch or something, maybe, but for a single color swatch, no.
Okay, but if you don't have it yet, you will still grab it. Like, there's no hesitation just because it's a jersey card, right?
Well, I mean, the hesitation would be on the price.
Right.
Like, if it's a card that I need that's reasonably priced, I'd still buy it if it was single.
Okay.
But
gotcha.
Because again, I know it sounds stupid. I'm an any and all guy. I look, any of his actual, official cards. If the price is reasonable, I'll consider buying it.
Right. You in that same boat there, Andy? Because I know with Calvin, obviously, he's going to have less cards than Brasso and Fleury. So I'm guessing there's maybe a little more incentive to just try to find everything that you can, right? Depending on what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, if it's something that I don't have or I think is nicely priced for me, then I'll absolutely pick it up. For sure.
Well, is it different for you too, though? I mean, you mentioned dupes, Nick, and this is just me. I can't afford some of the nicest stuff in dupes, but other than like the Intimidation Nation card I posted yesterday, I did buy 2 of those because I really want my dad to have one. It's so cool. Like, he has to see it, but I don't own dupes of anything, and because it's expensive. But Andy, when it comes to Calvin, I mean, there's got to be some really unique patches that you can find at good prices for multiple of, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I know for a lot of his Panini rookie stuff, low print runs, let's be honest, like I try and do the whole print run. There's a lot of printing plate sets that I know that I'm just 1 or 2 away from getting the whole rainbow. So for me, it's complete. I'm a completist when it comes to only Calvin stuff, because that is who my PC is. But in terms of duplicates, I don't really need 20 of the same card, even though I probably do have 20 of the same card from a specific set somewhere.
Right. Gotcha. Well, I mean, and that just goes to show how we're all kind of in a different place. Like Brasso, he's not going to have much more modern cards released with him on it. Unfortunately, I wish they did more.
Same.
Is it is he done getting cards right now?
I was going through my Flickr account the other day, and I noticed that 16, 17, there were quite a few, both Upper Deck and Leaf stuff. Since then, it seems to kind of slow down every year, and I think this year, so 2021 and last year, he's really only got a handful of cards. I'm talking. Hold on, let me check. Just bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, well,
I don't think that he has gotten any cards featuring just him in the past. Okay. From the Leaf Lumber Kings, that's the only set that's he's had any singular cards. Or cards with just. So it seems like most Leaf products have like, a card where there's 5 other dudes, and then Asco has it. And I'll still, if the price is right, I'll pick it up. But usually it's price has got to be really right, aka really cheap, or else I'll just.
Right. Well, and the same goes for you too, Andy, because both you guys are not getting cards of your players put into products unless he's like in the minor leagues. I don't know if they do minor league sets still. You can still get a new Pickard card, or if he plays later in the year, he'll be at an Upper Deck Series 2 or something. But I imagine that maybe gives you more incentive to like maybe pay a few more dollars for cards when they do come up. I know, Nick, you have a limit, like that MVP that I've been keeping for you for your, like 6 months now. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, Matt, I'm going to pay you $100 just so I can have it. But there's definitely maybe a little more incentive to try to be that completionist. And that was my next question. Like, I think it's more realistic for both of you guys to have this, get as many as possible of everything of this player, because they're not making anything new. Whereas Fleury, as long as Upper Deck gets their what together, he's going to be in a lot of checklists this upcoming year, and have stuff. So so I can't just be like that. You have to really pick and choose, So I don't know which one's better. I mean, it's nice to have new stuff, but then I have to make those hard choices that I'm like, oh, I got to let this go for this, and I don't know. Did you guys do that at first? Like when you were first getting back in? Andy, I'll go to you first. Because you were probably overwhelmed when it was like, now I have money to spend, so I can really buy anything. Did you have to really prioritize, like, okay, these ones first, and then go from there?
Yeah. One of the best advice that I was ever given is if you see something you like, buy it. Like, obviously, try to hit the best offer, or make an offer or something. But ultimately the decision is yours, because you're setting the market if you want that specific card. So I remember chasing a lot of Calvin's his low serial numbered stuff, and of course I was probably back in the day competing with my buddy Tim, who's Turco cards on Instagram, because he has a solid Calvin and check collection, and we didn't really know each other too well at the time.
Right.
So because it was so rare, and when I got really back into it, I was spending a lot of dough, especially on the low numbered stuff. But eventually, Tim passed his collection on to me, and I was able to buy a lot of stuff at shows and everything. So it ended up working well in the end. I didn't have to spend too much, especially because I wanted to play goal in hockey at the same time, and we all know how expensive the gear was. So it was about prioritizing. Okay, I have this much for cards, I have this much for school, I have this much for goalie gear. So definitely had have a budget for pretty much everything at the time.
Right. That again, like I said, it must have been really overwhelming at first, just because, like, and Nick, you know what I'm talking about here. When you finally like take the dive, you bought your jersey card, and then it just goes to the, you know what I mean? The door is open, the floodgates open from there. It really is kind of like, oh wow, okay, where's the market for all this? Did both of you kind of figure out where that limit was going to be for certain cars? Because I feel like I saw a couple Flurries at first. I'm like, that is sick. And I almost hit to buy it now. I'm like, oh, wait, am I like Andy's saying, am I going to set the market for this card now? Because if I don't buy this and somebody else does, then I'm going to have to pay that price again anyway. So it definitely is something to think about. So Nick, like, did you kind of get a layout of the land and then kind of go for the rare stuff and work your way down, or?
Yeah, in a way, hindsight's 20/20, but in retrospect, I wish I would have done a little bit more research before I dropped a bunch of money early on in my collecting days. Unfortunately, back then I had to deal with the the Swedish Barrasso collector that really overpaid for essentially everything.
Right.
So, in sellers, to their credit and within their right, they wanted big money for Barrasso cards. So for the first couple of years, I really didn't pick up a ton of real high end things.
Mhm.
And then he kind of started to slowly but surely get out of it. And I think he's totally out of it now. And so, like kind of lucky, I guess, that he's out. But
Right.
to answer your question, it was a little bit overwhelming at first. Then I saw some of the prices, and then when I actually started to research, and I'm like, wow, people are paying this for a Barrasso card, but like a Pato Bure card from the same set's going for less. No, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not going to pay that.
Well, you had to figure out that there was that one guy doing that.
Yes.
That influence. All it takes is one guy, and Andy knows with having Tim involved, and I know.
Exactly.
I kind of know who raises up the flurry prices. It only takes one other competitor, and that is as passionate as you are, and you are having to just go to crazy amounts of money to try to win a card. And you look back, you're like, okay, I really did want that one. And the other ones, you're like, oh, that one kind of hurts,
I have no problem admitting there's a couple cards that I can think of off the top of my head that I overpaid for. I definitely did.
Right.
But conversely, I've gotten some really nice cards for stupid cheap. So
it definitely balances out. We could both say that. Diego, and just to answer your question, Diego, these two guys, he both. Did you both play goalie at one point? I know.
I never played goalie. I was always a forward.
Okay.
I always thought. My biggest thing about liking goalies, I always thought the equipment was cool and the masks were cool when I was a kid. But to be honest, I never wanted to play goalie. I always wanted to, I was a forward from when I started in mites. When I was 6 or 7, whenever I started organized hockey all the way through till I, started playing in the beer league in late teens. So.
Right. Gotcha. Andy, how long did you play goalie? What span did it go from?
Oh man, so I had really good parents that did not allow me to step onto the ice as a goalie as a kid. They knew I'd get hurt, so I played soccer for a lot of years. Obviously played hockey as a forward for a few years, but I was just soccer all the way through high school. Started goalie probably at age 20. And I never had the regret, never got majorly hurt playing goalie. But it definitely is a labor of love, starting playing that position later in life. There's a lot of skills that you pick up, that you have to pick up. Yeah, and like I said, never had the regret. I've had fun with it. Great friends, great teammates. And I think the passion for me being a goalie does add to wanting to collect certain guys because I either like the way they play or I like the gear or something like that, which did lead to my secondary PC being the one rookie card for every goalie who's ever played in the NHL. I know it's kind of crazy and ambitious to even think about doing something like that, but I just love the position so much, so it's something that I wanted to pursue.
Right. No, that's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great, man. I wish I could say the same. I mean, I don't think any of us could look back at our lives and say we have any real regrets, because where we are now is because of those positives and negatives and decisions we've made, and that's cool. But one of my very few is not sticking with hockey. I played when I was very young, and we didn't have a goalie at the time. I wish they would have when I was 5 or 6 years old, but I always wanted to. I had street hockey gear. I wanted to do that, and when we moved to Alaska, you'd think, perfect. You're a 20-minute drive from a hockey rink. And my parents basically said it's too expensive. And I didn't say, what, I don't care. So I put up a basketball hoop. I had a gravel driveway. I became really good at that. But one of my midlife crises is I want to get the gear, which I have researched and went to a shop in Washington and learn how to play the position. Even if it's in a beer league against a bunch of old guys, I can't skate. I don't care. I want to be on the ice and learn how to do it. So I think that has fueled me to want to learn about Fleury more. How did he make that save? How did he know to get there, and how did he recover, and learning the position? So for me, just like you both said, watching and studying has definitely made me want to collect Fleury even more, for sure, and reliving that childhood dream, for sure. And then of course Diego followed up with this. Yeah, I think there's that's a reason like goalie young guns sell for more, even if they're a nobody, because they got like a good setup or something, And then Carl said this. Andy's quite happy that he doesn't have as much competition as we do. I don't know. Nick, where do you think we're at? Like, let's say a cup card of Barrasso that you haven't seen shows up. You're dealing with set collectors just as much as you're dealing with the people who collect Penguins and Barrassos and goalies, right?
Right. It's I don't know. I think he's at this point, he's as far as hobby prices and things like that, he's probably right in line with like the other upper level goalish in the mid 90s, like Mike Richter, John Van Beesbrook. He's certainly not, Patrick Roy or Martin Brodeur level, but there was, in addition to that Swedish collector, there was another guy who I never figured out who it was that bought a lot of his stuff on eBay for big cash.
Really?
Not as much as the guy, but there's it's actually one of the things I want to talk about. I'll only take a minute though. I've noticed that, last, when the pandemic started and the market really started to explode, the market's just going absolutely insane. I didn't really notice anything at all with his lower end or mid end as far as price increases, maybe a little bit with the mid end, but some of his higher end stuff for a while was going for pretty big money. I got outbid considerably on some things.
Really?
A specific one that I thought of, I just remember this today, was the National Treasures. I can't remember what the set was called, but it's the one with the diamond in the middle.
Oh, yeah. So, I regret not buying that too.
Sweet, awesome design, beautiful card. So the regular version's numbered to 5. I have one of those. And then the 1-of-1 version popped up on eBay. And that was one of the ones where obviously it was on my watch list, and I have my phone set up to where I get an alert when something's about to end. But I also set a reminder on my phone.
I've done it. We've all done it. I know that.
Yes. Not only the alert from eBay, but actually the alert on my iPhone. And so I was super excited, and I purposely, like in the week leading up to it, I bought no other cards, just my day-to-day stuff. Like when I'm at work and I go to the store, I'll buy a coffee instead of an energy drink because it's $1 versus $3.
Yeah, right.
It's stupid, but just trying to save a couple bucks here because, like, hey, if I spend 15 more bucks, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I got outbid bad. That thing went for almost $200, and I wasn't going to pay that for yes, it was a sweet card, but it's a lot for cardboard.
And says the guy with them all framed behind him.
Right, but
but I get it.
He, hey, it was worth it to the guy that got it. So, and I don't know who it was.
Well, that makes me want to talk about that topic, because Andy even said it. If you see something you want, you buy it. I feel like once a month, let's say on average, there's that card that pops up, and you see it, and even make an offer or not, and you can't stop thinking about it. You're like, oh man, what if somebody buys it? What if my offer doesn't go through? You know what I'm talking about? If it's within that realm, you have to get it, because like the diamond card of Fleury, I had the chance to get that 5, and at the time I'm like, whatever. I cannot stop thinking about that card ever since it's supposed. Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that.
How many have you seen of the 5?
One, just the one. And it was a good price too. It did not end where it should have. And it came up right as the playoffs started. So I got kind of like panicked, like, oh my God, this thing is going to be insane, which like his E-Tops was selling for like $150, Fleury was, and now it's like 30. So, but there's
still 4 out there.
Yeah.
There's 4. The problem with National Treasures is I don't know how many unopened boxes there are, but you never know.
Right. I'm sure I'll see another one. And that's why I've been selling a lot of stuff. But can you think of the last card, Andy, that showed up and either you saw it and it was like, click, or you kept thinking about it, like, it's $20 too much. It's 20. And you just were like, you know what? Too bad. I hit the button,
Oh, just like hitting the button on a card that I really wanted.
Yeah.
Or
Oh yeah. That you just like, it was like, as I joke, like the Insta buy gif where the guy's hitting the button like 1,000 times a second. Like,
oh man, yeah. Here, take my money.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it was actually probably about a month or two ago. It was a nice certified out of 10. Good price, $40, but I still messaged the guy, hey, what's your best offer? And he took about $5 off. So, you know, it was more than doable. You know, I actually haven't had a Calvin Pickard card come up that was like super high in price that was like debating on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the nice part about collecting a guy who's kind of, you know, not as well known and yeah, you do save a lot of money.
Right.
You've got a don't you have a one of one tag from Certified? Is it?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm smiling is I have it with me right here. Very, very special story behind this card. Very special story behind it.
It's actually not the one. It's a sweet card, but it's actually not the one I was thinking of. But
okay,
there was one.
Go ahead.
One beauty that you posted, and I'm thinking, geez, even though, I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but I mean, the hobby demand for Pickard isn't, you know,
right.
Connor McDavid level.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
How sweet that card is to cost a few bucks, but that's a sweet card too. The one you just showed.
Well, before you tell that story, Andy, it reminded me. I wanted to talk about this. I think it's almost rarer for a Calvin Pickard 101 to show up on eBay than a Marc-Andre Fleury or Tom Barrasso. Because if I'm a guy that looks, oh yeah, I used to collect 6 years ago when Panini was making cards, and you pull a card out and you go, Calvin Pickard, it's going back in the box. Because why would I? No offense, but why am I going to list that if I haven't heard of him before in a while? But if I pull it out and I see Marc-Andre Fleury, Barrasso, like, oh yeah, these are popular Penguins players, throw it up on the internet. So that's got to make it even more exciting and almost tougher for you to find those types of cards.
Oh, absolutely. Like I go months at a time without seeing like a rare Pickard card because I mostly have everything. So it definitely, it definitely is thrilling when I see something like that up. Or even when I'm scrolling on Facebook, looking at the card pages, and I'm like, oh, look, you know, a nice Future Watch patch auto that I don't have. Or
Well, can you tell us a story about that card? I mean, you have it out there. What's the whole background on it?
Yeah, so it was actually my boss at the time, boss friend, I'll say. At AG Sports and Cards here in Winnipeg. I was assistant manager for him for about 3 years. And he comes up to me and he goes, "You should message this guy on Kijiji. He has this Calvin Pickard. And I think it's a 101." So I messaged him. I asked him, "How much would you take?" And I think he wanted like $200 at the time, which was a little high, I thought. And a few months later, it ended up on eBay. Just picked it up for I think
cheaper, right?
I think it was like $60 Canadian. So.
Wow, dude. That's awesome. Can we see it? Is that it right there? Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, right here. And I just couldn't believe it was that same card. Just made its way home somehow.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, those totally certified cards are nasty, man. Even like the base parallels are just incredible cards. That again, I just think that's got to make it really tough, you know, because I'll just throw this out. If there's a guy on Instagram who's got like 200 Marc-Andre Fleury 101s, and so I'm pretty much like I've reserved all those to like never be seen, and I'm okay with that. Like I can get just fine cards without those, but to have the chance to get one for cheap. What's up?
I don't mean to interrupt you, Matt, but do you go on to Sports Card Forum?
I used to be on there a lot. I haven't been on there in a while.
I think the guy you're talking about, it's got to be this. His username's like TK Mullen or something like that.
Yeah, I think Kendall Mullen is the guy that he's talking about.
He's had an ongoing thread of his Fleury pickups. Like whenever he gets a new card, he posts it. It's been going on since like 2012. That dude's got to have some deep pockets, man, because he used to snatch up like every Fleury. Like up until probably 2015, 2016, it seemed like most like 3 new 1-of-1s a month. It's like Jesus, dude.
Yeah, and like the ability to find those, though, you know, like I guess that could be a fun, quick conversation. Is the connections within the hobby go a long ways. And we've got some cards, and when we get into these card specific stories, I can think of many cards that, whether it's Hobby Insider or whether it's through Instagram, or Nick knows a guy who knows a guy that has a sweet flurry, and somehow we're all able to make it work. Or Tim knows somebody that has a card that Andy would want. Like, there's always those little connections, and he must have, feelers, bait just everywhere for people to latch onto, because his collection, like, I can't even, it's not that you compare collections, because I think that's, as Aaron says, crease collector, it's one of the worst things you could do is feel like you're comparing with another person. But I don't even consider that a collection that I can look at and beyond just drooling over, oh yeah, it'd be nice to have that someday. I know I won't, and that's okay. But it's amazing to look at. I mean,
yeah, he's got
I know where they're at. Right.
I don't, like I said, I don't go to the forums that often, but a couple of years ago, he had something like 96% of Fleury's non-one of one cards, and 80, even counting the one of ones, he was 82 or 84%. That's insane. It's crazy. He's got to have people all, I hate to say all over the world, but I mean, there are hockey collectors in most part, not all parts, but parts of the world that I'm sure view him as the Fleury guy.
Right. So. And I think that's great. I'd love to hear his story, at some point, because everybody's got different amounts of money that they can spend, and if Andy was making 5 times what he's going to make when he's done with school, maybe he would be collecting Patrick Waugh or, but I'm just saying, because depending on that, you could shell more money up, but we all have our limits, and maybe he's sitting at, making $500,000 or more a year, and then you can just buy shields and one-on-ones, and that's fine. So it's really impressive. It's really impressive.
Personally, I just can't process the thought of collecting Fleury, a guy who will be a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. He's had cards since 03-04. That's almost 20 years, having almost everything that comes out of the guy. I have no trouble collecting a guy whose rookie year was 13-14 and had not a whole lot down the line, but to be doing that straight for almost 2 decades, that's mind blowing.
Right. Well, and for Nick, Barrasso having 20 years worth of cards almost, well, more, because he's in a lot of Panini releases. But the 90s stuff is really not that hard to track down for the most part.
No.
The Atomic was awesome that you found that. Some of the superscripts or the scripts.
By the way, for not buying that.
Yeah. but it's funny, it's not as hard for you to find some of this stuff. Andy, you're going to see stuff pop up, not as popular player, but when this modern stuff is really, really tough to find, a rainbow of. And so, it's always interesting to know the competition you're going up against, because if he's still picking stuff up, which it sounds like he is, I have to kind of pick and choose my spots, which it helps me decide, when the limited logos that has the star of Vegas is in it, I already know who's going to win that. So I just kind of watch it. Oh, that was nice, and let it go. But I did want to talk about Panini real quick, if you guys don't mind, because I know all of our players, especially Barrasso, when I was getting back into collecting, I was like, man, Tom Barrasso is in all sorts of Panini cards. They must have valued having him in sets. And of course, Calvin Pickard, they did him justice by putting all those incredible RPAs together, dude. And your tags and stuff. I feel like all 3 of our players were shown a lot of love by Panini, So let's take a minute and talk about what they brought to the table. So Andy, what do you feel like Panini had that Upper Deck didn't at the time? What set them apart in your mind?
Oh, a lot of the designs were just incredible. I think that Upper Deck is very they keep their designs kind of simple, whereas Panini, they had, they brought in Prism Hockey and, Titanium. They brought back Titanium from Pacific. And
definitely.
Yeah, just a lot of the wicked designs that looked awesome and was kind of a fresh face in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think Panini did that set them away from Upper Deck was taking advantage of the 13-14 class. With my guy Calvin Pickard, he was in 3 Upper Deck sets and he's in 15 Panini sets. So the rookies were shown a lot of love. And personally, for relic cards, the neck tags from Panini, a lot of the shields from Panini were just game changers. And I look back and I'm thinking, God, I wish Panini was still back in the hobby, because they with the young players that they have coming up for hockey especially, I could name probably 10, 15 guys who are going to change the hobby down the line. And it's just unfortunate that Upper Decks kind of has the monopoly, and Panini can't really do anything about it.
Right. Well, and they've kind of changed design, their philosophy with doing because of basketball being like this massive cash cow. They're doing the Select and the Prism and all this over and over and over and over again. I get that collectors want that, but man, what they were doing with hockey, like you said, Andy, was so unique. I mean, Nick, are you on board with that as well? Feeling like
yeah, I was going to say, first thing Andy said, hit the nail on the head, was their designs are better, in my opinion, better than Upper Deck. And I've been guilty of saying it myself that Panini put out some crap. Well, even their cards that were quote unquote crap because the resale value was so so poor, I still thought the designs in the majority of those cards were really good. And then Upper Deck, again, Andy said this, they certainly have some nice cards, but they're more basic design. There's so many Panini cards that are just awesome. Like National Treasures, that's one of my all-time favorite sets. I was surprised to see how it sold, because like looking at the prices for the ARPs and that, like nowhere near. I mean, I didn't expect them to be like cup level, but like they weren't even close. It was disappointing, like how poorly it sold. But National Treasures, like I said, I thought it was awesome. Just some beautiful cards.
That gold foil on there, dude.
Yeah. And Matt mentioned Select and Certified. Like I think Select and 13-14 Select, just freaking, excuse my language, awesome. I mean, great design. Trying to put together some rainbows of Lemieux, Crosby, and Malkin from that set. I don't know, good luck, but just because it's a beautiful set.
Man, that's the thing that I've discovered as I've really gotten into like collecting Flurry solely is I'm like, man, like these cards, even the base cards look really nice, or at least the parallels do. And I know I got to give Upper Deck some credit. I'm gonna stay in the glass half full. I looked at a couple of videos of Allure, and after I got over being pissed that Flurry somehow is not in the set, I really don't understand. No, as how really nice the cards look. I mean, in the Metal universe, like they're doing some things design wise, and of course, signing Jean Arena from former Flair designer and her husband, like they're going to definitely have their hands in on it. I feel like Panini did things when I'm looking at a Flurry Panini card and an Upper Deck card from those years. I'm like, dude, I'm all about Panini. Bring them back. And Nick, you've commented on my post where I'm saying like, where are my Panini fans at? And you're like, yeah, me. Like, you're right. Those are awesome.
And like maybe it's because I'm predominantly a player collector, but just there's so much. There's a lot of hate for Panini, and I don't really get it. Like, I understand that well, I shouldn't say that because they were licensed for a short time. I really don't. I really don't get the hate. One of the most common complaints was that they put out too much stuff. Well, Upper Deck puts out just as much stuff, and they have put out their fair share of products that weren't the best. Like some of their like Upper Deck Black, I think they only made it a couple years. That looked really nice, but it sold like crap. Yeah. And then there were some they went from packs and boxes of SPX to like one card a pack and like 4 packs and like stupid stuff, like trying to make everything high end, but then people would buy it and then the resale value was trash. And just I mean, Upper Deck's done as many poor things as Panini did, if not more, but for some reason they're still around, and Panini no longer has the license.
Well, let's play hypothetical here, because even though this really isn't going to change anything, if you could bring 3 sets back, and Panini was allowed to make 3 sets a year, think about low end, mid end, high end, right? You got 3 sets, and I think we can all agree National Treasures wins the high end, right? As much as I am a fan of Panini Prime, I have to admit I have even like the base cards like out of 5, those parallels with the rainbow foil, they're so awesome. But if you could do a
Prime looks
mid end and a low end as well, I mean, you can change your high end. But I don't know, what would you say? If you have examples there, Andy, feel free to show them.
Well, first off, I was going to show off the National Treasures RPA. Just
look at that thing, dude.
I love the look of them, and I know that Matt, you and I were talking earlier comparing this stuff to the Cup, and I just think that the design on NT blows the Cup out of the water.
Well, look how clear that. Can you show that again? Can you show that picture
absolutely,
again?
Yeah.
Look how clear the photo of Calvin is, like in the way it comes down. Like it's the foil on there. It's glossy finish. The patch, like. And look at the bottom, even the little detail underneath the autograph, like that card. Yeah. Do you have an example there too, Nick? I see you got a card in your hand.
Yeah, I just pulled out one of my boxes, and this is just a regular game used, numbered to 99. And my lighting's not the best here, but I mean, this is a numbered to 99, nothing too special, and that's just a sharp looking card.
It is, man. I like the the way they have the jersey as the focus, but it's got a nice clean player photo on there. Like, they definitely could, if they were doing National Treasures, they would give the Cup a run for their money every now. I will say the Cup this last year was the best I've seen in years. Like, I do want to show some love to the Cup. The not Shadow Box, Overshadow. I might have to go get it. I feel like that was one of the most unique, cool looking cards I've ever seen, with like the silhouette of the player and then a close up of their face and the blue pen. Like that kind of stuff I want to see more of, because it's like different, but National Treasures for sure nailed it on the high end. What about mid end Panini releases? Like we talked about Totally Certified. I've watched some box breaks of that, and it's Prism. They're great looking cards, but I don't know. What are you guys thinking on that? If you could do a mid-end product and bring it back, what would it be?
So are we considering select mid-end or low-end?
Nowadays, probably. I mean,
it would be high.
It would be low, high-end, right?
Yeah.
God, I was just going to say select, make some nice stuff.
Yeah.
So provided was a mid-end product, I give it to select. 100%.
I love, and then chasing those parallels with the cool like designs. It's kind of an Allure-esque product, but with more parallels. I'll agree with you on that. That's pretty nice. And then remember they brought back like Pinnacle and Score,
Crown Royale,
some lower end stuff.
Forgot about Crown.
I'd love to see them, and this is because you guys know my connection with Mike Kramer, who's a super nice guy. I just love chatting cards with him. It'd be nice to see them do a Pacific set and like Upper Deck, like Series 1, Series 2, like a lower end Pacific set, but then put like the Kramer's choice of players in there, those pyramid looking cards, and bring some more Pacific designs back and start, pushing those out again. That would be a fun little lower end product to put out, I think. Here we go. Yeah, Diego's right on that for sure. And then, of course, can't forget about Dominion. Dominion's got some really nice stuff out there.
Dominion, sure. Especially 2010-11 Dominion, that was awesome. Obviously, I'm partial to that set because there's a bunch of Brassos in it. But
dude, he's everywhere in that set, man. I'll never forget. He was everywhere in that set. He and Fleury both. Was Pickard in any of the Dominion sets?
I believe so. Yeah, 13-14 Dominion. I think I have the 101 button. It's here somewhere.
Can you show that if you can find it? Like,
I
can definitely try to go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take intermission and dig that out for you.
Well, while if you want to dig that out, there were some fan questions here too. We could kind of work our way through fan questions. I couldn't help myself. Other than looking for cards that we want to find, is there anything, Nick, especially because I kind of mentioned that, there's not a lot of Barassos coming up and you have some side collect PCs going. Is there anything that really, can get you sidetracked from going for Barasso, or are you still feeling like you stick with it no matter what?
Talking about cards, right?
Yeah. Just collecting cards. Yeah.
That's yeah. Not really, because I just I don't know, like easiest way I can describe it is like unless like when I see a card I'm like, wow, that's nice. It just doesn't, I don't know. Like I get excited when I see a Brasso card I don't have. Like I pick up stuff from other guys here and there for my side collections, but unfortunately, all the guys I collect, they're kind of expensive, so I can't, I don't want to, nor can I justify spending that much on multiple collections. So in short, the answer is really, I know it's not a juicy answer, but it's just not really.
Not really. I think when you're as focused as we are as player collectors, there's that constant drive of, is that card going to pop up that one day? And you guys know that like heart going into your throat when that big card, like the 101 or like your top want shows up. That happened for me a few days ago, and I don't want to spoil. It was number 2 on my want list, and I'd just been talking about it with Colettes or whatever, and there it was. Awesome. I was like, like hit the button. I want to get it for somebody else. But what about you, Andy? Do you feel like there's ever any sidetracking, or are you pretty much like able to stick with it with Pickard?
100% I can stick with it with Calvin. My secondary PC, as I mentioned, is a rookie card for every goalie who's ever played in the NHL, and I get so easily sidetracked with that one because I know for one thing, it's something that I'm never going to be able to complete. I'll never land a George Vezina rookie, or probably a Hainsworth or some like the old legends. Like I don't have that kind of money. Maybe one day we'll see, but that I know that secondary PC is easily over my head sometimes.
Well, let's maybe end like with our in general goalie collecting or player collecting questions on this one. And it's always good to look to the future because we all are in different stages of our collections. Mm-hmm. I'll start with you, Andy, since you were just chatting. Like, what is your goal with your Pickard PC moving forward? Are you like 100% completionist? I want everyone that I can get, basically.
I think so. I think I'm close. I'm almost there. Big announcement. I landed the Shield. So that's coming in sometime next week. So
we can't wait to see that. It's gonna be sick. Wow. That's awesome. Is that his only shield that he has, or is it?
I believe so. I think he also had one that was planned from Luxury Suite, but the word is it got ruined somewhere along in the process. So hey, that's one less shield I have to worry about, right?
Imagine if you were able to track it down. Somebody at Panini had this like mangled shield that they kept. Like, I can't get rid of it. It's like, I'll take it. Sure. Yep. Dude, that's sick. I seriously can't wait to see that. I mean, that's awesome. You can see how pumped the two of us are. Like, we know how big of a card that is for sure. Yeah. So
awesome. I also have my Dominion stuff here. Right. If you already see it. So this is the 101. My buddy Tim, who we all know and love. Yeah, the 101 black button.
Dang, man. Yeah. That is incredible.
That's awesome. Beautiful card.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What did it take to get a card from him? Because he's got a few flurries left, and I'm almost afraid to like, because I can tell how much he loves them. And, when people are that attached to cards, part of you doesn't even want to see them let them go. Part of you is like, it's going to take a serious amount of money. Like, did he get to a point where he could just tell, like, you were with Pickard as he is with Turco, like he'll love them more type thing?
Yeah, definitely. We've had talks about it before, and I think it was actually around this time last year that he told me, I think you'll appreciate them more than I would, and we pretty much came to a number where thanks, Diego. We pretty much came to a number that we were both happy with, and I started paying him off bit by bit, and I could say that I'm almost there with everything.
Awesome, man. That's wonderful. I love when collectors do that, man. Yeah. Seriously, it's the best. Now, what about you, Nick? I mean, we touched on this a few months ago, but where are you goal-wise with the Barrasso collection? Is it just looking for stuff that you haven't got, or are you starting to maybe dupe up on a couple if you can find them?
It's really it. Just picking up ones I don't have. I still look at my want list maybe once a month, and I always see a different card that I'm like, I'm surprised I don't have that one yet. But my goal hasn't really changed for years. I just, want to pick up the ones I don't have. Although my main goal, discussed this last time, is finishing the damn nameplates from 2013-14 in the game. And I got a couple buddies that are card guys, not like as serious as we are, but big sports guys. And they collect here and there, do the box break thing, case break thing. And they both have told me that they've, quote, gone to the end of the internet looking for those other four names. Guys, you're wasting your freaking time because I have done the same, and the only 4 that I've ever seen I own. So
Right.
that's my main goal is to finish that damn thing.
And it's almost going to be funny when Nick posts the video of him like completing it. He's going to be like this jaded, get off my lawn type guy who's like, finally finish this damn set. Yeah. All right, on to the next,
Yeah, one of those things where, you think you might slow down once you do something, but then you don't. Because,
right.
I could say, oh, yeah, I'm done when I finish that, which I won't be.
Right.
But,
of course.
We can sit here and joke about it like it doesn't, have any effect on the real world, or my real world, but it is disappointing that it's been like 5 years and I haven't seen a single one. So
what are the odds that the big Barassa collector overseas has them in his collection?
So he right around that time of 13, 14, he slowly started to actually it was about a year after that, because he had gotten one on eBay, if I recall correctly, and then I got one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was in 2015, maybe. I saw that he really needed a card that I had of Brasso. It was from Speak of the Devil Panini Prime. An absolutely awesome card that sucked parting with, but I like, let's trade this straight up, and he did. So, at that point, I had got 2 more on eBay, and I don't think he has any in his collection. So
wow, and it kind of makes you wonder too, Andy. You kind of mentioned this, like unopened boxes. Like, I wonder how many of any of our cards that are still sitting on our want list, like probably more like your guys as opposed to mine, or I don't know, but are just sitting in a box somewhere in storage, or you know what I mean? Like,
oh man, yeah, I honestly think about that all the time. Whether it's staying in someone's, an unopened box, or staying in like, one of these like white card boxes just stored away, and someone might not even know they have it. So
yeah,
right.
I can live with like factory sealed boxes because, hey, supply and demand. They're just, if somebody doesn't buy them, whoever has them isn't going to throw them out. But yeah, if somebody's sitting on one of those cards that they've actually pulled themselves and they're just sitting on it, bastards.
Right. I know. And it is tough, but one thing that I found out, and I do want to say this as like a PSA to people, I think we can all agree when those certain big cards show up, and I usually do pretty well. One guy refuses to lower his price on one, but I don't understand. You're selling the card. Cool with me. When you take the time to reach out to people, whether it's Tim or that Barrasso collector or me, certain sellers on eBay or whatever, I've definitely taken the time to explain what it would mean to me to own this card and why it would be special. And I think that's kind of not a lost art, but it's lost on people, because I've asked friends, they're like, oh, I really want this card. I'm like, have you reached out? No, I'm afraid to type a message. Like, reach out, reach out. And like Andy, in the sense, I've met Calvin. I have a personal connection with this guy. Collecting his cards is like, the most amazing thing. I'm almost done. Like, if I hear that and I have a nice Pickard card, I'm like, this is a guy I want to see this card go to,
right.
Not the guy that's going to sell it, grade it, or buy it, grade it, and then sell it later down the road. I don't feel very good about knowing, like, all of my A-Rods I've sold have gone to people who I can tell are going to love the cards, and that's cool with me. So I think I want to give that out to everybody who hasn't done that. Like, don't be afraid to reach out. Like, if a card really means that much to you, man, like, it's not worth just sitting there and sending offers and not trying to build up some kind of rapport with the person who owns it. Sometimes you're going to strike out, and that's cool. But most of the time you'll actually, end up working out pretty good, which is funny because, Andy, I sent you that card, and I'm never sending Andy another, what do you think this is worth? Because, like, Flurry's here and Calvin, what you can get for the same card is like, I give you a lot of credit, but I was able to talk that guy down to a ridiculously low price, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I'm sure you guys can think of times when that's happened, right, where you've actually reached out and it's gone well.
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely. Yeah,
sure.
The shield for me, 100%.
Dude, I can't wait to see that, man. I almost feel like we need a reveal on video and that thing.
Right? Yeah, if you guys got the time.
I had to put that on there. Nick is always good for a good quote or two, whether he's recording a video or podcasting. Cool.
Yeah, I
Well,
tried not to swear too much. I think I've done okay.
no, but it's the humor in the swearing. Like you're not swearing like a fisherman, like I used to do when I was young. All the fishermen, they would just swear like it was nothing. If you time it well, it works out good. But why don't we get into some card specific stories? Just if you guys could pull out maybe 3 to 5 cards, if you have them in front of you already, I'll definitely full screen you so I can go grab a couple. But cards that, I mean, obviously every card in our collection is special. I don't care if it's a base card or not; they all mean something. But if there's anything like a cool story that's attached to it, or you remember seeing it, like, oh my gosh, I have to get this, kind of like more of a showcase part of the episode. Andy, would you like to start us off here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off with the first card I ever bought. Like it's incredible. I still have this. Okay. It was when I was 8 years old. Store called Uptown Sports in Portage Place Mall in Winnipeg. They're still open as far as I know. It's a Timu Solani leaf card.
That's awesome.
From what year is this? 93, 94. So this has been with me for almost 20 years. This is the first card I ever bought. Too? In the same case, believe it or not.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Look at the colors on that design.
Yeah,
by the way.
Beautiful design on the back. Like I love that with the legislative building.
They don't make base cards the way they used to, man.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
They don't. That's cool that you have that first card, and I should probably go find the same. I am gonna go find it now. Nick, would you like to show a card off while I go find my first card?
I meant to prepare everything last night, but I forgot. So I've got a ship box that's the whole rainbow. It's
okay.
My light sucks, but you kind of see it. So I've got all 5 of the cards and then 3 of the 4 plates of 14-15 or 15-16 in the game used. So the gold 1 of 1 in here is the one with the story. So it's not really that much of a story, but it was frustrating for a short time. So I remember I was at work the night that I saw it pop up on eBay, and I remember the person I was with. Because I actually I said something or somehow they knew that I saw something on my phone. They're like, what's going on? So I told them oh, that's cool. So I had it on my want list. It was an auction, and then all of a sudden it's gone. 2 days later. So I send a message and I'm like, hey, what happened to this card? And the guy's like, well, somebody sent me an offer that I couldn't turn down. I get it. They're not supposed to do that, but stuff happens. So I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking to myself, he's not supposed to do that, and I'm not supposed to do this. I asked him, I'm like, give me the email of the guy that you sold it to. And he's not supposed to do that, and he did. And so I was able to get a hold of that guy, and we came to a price that I thought was very fair when I thought he was going to, hold it for hostage. Or hold it as hostage, essentially. But that was probably the last one I can think of that's an actual story other than just finding on eBay or, getting a card on one of the forums.
Right. And talk about good luck too, Nick, because, Andy and I are probably sitting here thinking man, that never works out, because I wanted to message who bought that flurry? I've been watching this for a month and it happened about 2 weeks ago. I was like, no, it's gone.
And the weird, super luck, I thought, because, in a perfect world, was it more than what I wanted to pay? Yeah. But it was essentially what I thought the card was going to go for on eBay. And, they say, when you're dealing with somebody, don't be the first one to, send an offer. But I lowballed the guy, and he countered with something that I thought was very fair. So I said, all right, man, give me your PayPal. I'll send you the money right now. So it worked out when I didn't think it was. So, these aren't really a rainbow because the colors are just different versions of gold and silver. So, but when you see them in person, they're still pretty sharp. But that was the first rainbow that I completed. And also have game used with an auto, so it was a little bit little bit nicer than just like a couple of base cards that with the different parallels, if that makes sense. Just
Yeah.
because the highest numbered one is to 45, 10, 3, and 1. So a couple of, the 1 of 1 obviously was nice to get, but also, those anything under 5 can be kind of a crapshoot to pick up.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. Don't get me started on that, man, because there's some parallels where you're just thinking to yourself, like, I'm never going to see that, and then all of a sudden 2 show up within like 2 weeks or a week of each other, and you're just like, how does that even happen? But I think you're lucky too, in a sense, because reaching out to a guy where, unless you sent goods and services, which I imagine all of us would have done in that sense, you're taking a bit of a risk, and we all know, like, we've all reached out to people, and you get that like weird vibe. You're like, I need to confirm with like 5 people that you're legit, and then you get that guy reach out, and he's like super cool.
I actually found him on one of the forums, and he had good feedback. So,
okay.
Really, that I wasn't nervous once I found that out, but
right. He's not going to risk getting roasted on like every forum by finding out he stole somebody's money for sure. He was pretty safe.
Hey, can I tell a quick? Speaking of that, can I just tell a quick story about the one time I was almost screwed over?
There's a lesson to be learned too, and I think that's even better, because sometimes people just don't think before they put themselves in the same situation. We've all been close before, for sure.
So this won't take me long.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
I back in like 2012, I think it was one of my first couple years getting back into it. I get a message on on Sports Cards forum from this dude who has the Buffalo shooting gallery from Between the Pipes 06, 07. It has brass on it. So he asked me if I'm interested. I said, yeah, who do you collect? I didn't have anything that he wanted as far as a trade.
Okay.
So I asked for a price, and it was just, it wasn't an unfair offer, just more than I wanted to pay.
Okay.
So we're like, all right, man, thanks. Maybe some other time. So a couple months later, I buy a couple boxes of 06, 07 Between the Pipes. And I happened to hit the Toronto version of the shooting gallery. So this guy happened to be a Leafs fan. So I'm thinking, okay, even though the trade is in his favor, because it's got Potvin and I'm drawing a total blank on all the Toronto goalies it had. But anyway, the players were, so he was getting a better deal. Okay. So I'm like, hey, do you still have that? And if so, do you want to trade up? He's like, yeah, sure. So thankfully I followed the rules here, because that place had a rule where if you had under 20 feedback, you had to send first. Thankfully, I sent first because the card didn't show up. And like 3 weeks ago, no, I hadn't sent my card yet, so I didn't lose anything. Thankfully. Okay. So after like 2 weeks, no, it must have been 3 weeks, because this dude was in Canada, and being in the US, you guys know it can be in customs for a couple weeks. So I messaged the guy just to tell him, and he didn't seem that concerned. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I wait another week, nothing. Message him again, still the same thing. He's like, oh, let's give it another week, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I just so happened to go on the Swedish Brasso Collectors website. Guess what card's on there?
No way.
So I emailed Frederick is the guy's name from Sweden. I mean, he was a good guy. We had a decent rapport. Anyway. So I emailed him like, hey, dude, where'd you get this card? And he told me, and it was that dude. I'm like, oh, you got to be shitting me. Excuse my language.
No, it's okay.
So I politely calling him out. Now, mind you, this card was numbered to 9, but you know how the old in the game cards, they didn't have the serial number stamped on there.
Right.
So he tells me he had 2 of the same cards, which is total BS, because all the swatches matched, including the exact spot where the hole in the piece of the game used Roger Crozier was. So this dude tried to pull one over on me. And so obviously I reported him to the moderators at Sports Card Forum. And they're, I understand where they were coming from. They're like, yes, he tried to screw you over, but unfortunately we can't prove that he's lying, blah, blah, blah. So, but they didn't ban him, but put him on like their watch list. I don't know whatever happens to him, but that's the one time I've ever been almost screwed. But it was so, like I said, it was a good thing that I followed the rules and, let him send first before I did.
But being able to go and look at the other like, thank God you had him to check with.
Really?
You had a good rapport with him, because that little double checking saved you big time, man.
So it's meant I guess my quote unquote lesson is the great people in this hobby vastly outnumber the bad, but there's still some dirt bags in the card business.
But I mean, it's all about your feeling you get, and after that, I'm sure you kind of know, like, oh, okay, as soon as you start getting a weird vibe,
yep,
I don't need it that bad.
Yep.
I mean, Andy, it's probably been a little bit. Has it been easier collecting Pickard though? Like the people that are trying to sell you Pickard are not, and only because I'm saying they're not like, oh, I'm holding a Connor McDavid patch auto. There's a lot of room for some funny business. Has it been pretty good for you? Especially buying from Tim, Tim's.
Yeah, absolutely. Most like I said, most of my collection came from him. Great guy to deal with, and he'll always give me heads up on, who to kind of keep an eye on, who to stay away from. And I think being in this hobby and also being I'm an assistant manager in a hobby shop, you kind of pick up on, the tricks of the trade and kind of what to do in certain situations, because even working at the store, like we get people coming in all the time with shady business, and then based on what they're trying to sell you, it raises red flags right away. Like if a guy comes in trying to sell you an Austin Matthews young gun for $20, then there's some red flags there. And there's, unfortunately, our hobby is it is present in our hobby, shame to say, but I think being in it for as long as we have, we can kind of monitor it and realize when they come up.
Absolutely. No, and I think hockey, we have it a little bit better than most. I mean, thank God we're not collecting basketball. Not to say it's bad, but, I like Duncan Robinson, and he's a great shooter, but he's not like a big time, and his stuff's expensive. I'm like, hey, what would I do if I really liked, like if I wanted to collect Dwayne Wade again? Like, I'd be in trouble. And you'd be running into more of that, assholery. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Welcome, Nick. I mean, it really is, and so I feel really good. I haven't unfortunately dealt and had that situation come up yet, and but I'd take a long time to really build up some kind of a rapport, with people before I agree to pay them money, unless it's like a $10 card. I feel pretty safe about that. But we're talking about an autograph or anything more than that. You really want to kind of know where this card is coming from rather than just taking the risk, because it's never worth the risk. It really isn't, but sweet. Well, we got some lessons out. I definitely want to real quick show my the card. This isn't the card, unfortunately. No offense to my stepdad, but he got mad at me when I was a kid. He threw all my cards away, and I only rescued a few of them. So I wish I still had it. But this was the card my dad gave me, essentially, that started it off for me. So I think we can all agree this is a card that would start people collecting goalies with like look at that setup. Look how awesome that looks. The colors are amazing. The mask is amazing. That was the card that got me into collecting goalies. So I think all three of us have seen that card before at some point. John Casey's setups were, and I'm really glad they didn't use that picture on the front, because that's pretty lame right there. Imagine it going from that to that setup on the front. But I just remember seeing that card and thinking, those guys look amazing. And then he bought me a little starting lineup goalie. I think it was either Patrick Waugh or John Casey or somebody. And, the rest is history. So I definitely want to give my dad a lot of credit. He got me into hockey in 90-91 Upper Deck. That was the set. And I had a lot of goalies from that set. I remember going into card shops and just leafing through and picking out other goalies, And then I had a good share of Barrasso cards, but I tell this story. It's a funny one. I don't know if you've heard it, Andy, but when I first got on Instagram, I'm like, I'm going to collect Barrasso. This is it right here. He was my favorite as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I find this guy's account within like 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. Not just because like I will lose auctions, but it's like his collection's like already incredible. Right. I don't want to be competing with a guy who's trying to finish off Barrasso. I'm like, he's got that taken care of. Let me move on to somebody else. So within like a day, I was like, okay, Justin Tebow. That's it. Because his cards were affordable. He had really beautiful setups. And even though Justin Tebow collector, already has everything. I kind of started there, and then of course, I talked about Fleury, but it was really cool to see people that were so passionate player collectors, and just like I was when I was a kid collecting goalies. So
I just want to say two things. That picture on that John Casey card where he's shooting the puck with right-handed, holding the block on his with the block on his right side. You never see that anymore. Pretty much, all the goaltenders who catch left are forced to shoot left-handed in the NHL. So that's so unique. And I know there's a handful of goalies who did that. I think Curtis Joseph was one that always flipped his stick back like that, but you never see that anymore. So it's just that's a wicked photo.
Having never played goaltender, I was thinking about that the other day, because in softball I catch left and throw right.
Right.
But what does that, like handling the stick? Am I going to have to learn how to lefty that thing out there? I think I'm going to have to, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tristan Jarry should have flipped the stick over and shoot right in the playoffs against the Islanders.
Well, Jarry is just frustrating. And can I just say his performance? I don't know why Penguins are not like, let's just bring Fleury back and have Jarry back him up. Easy call. Why do we even need to talk about it? But no, we can't do that. He'd make us go $1 million over the cap. We can't, trade somebody to make it work.
I don't know, man. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And we've had our fun debates about Matt Murray and whatnot. Helped him win a cup. But I've always wondered if Coach Sullivan being there still is would almost hurt Fleury as opposed to somebody new, a guy that was already comfortable benching him. Would he do it again? Yeah. That's not what he wants. I know he wants to go and play and then retire. So,
right.
Anyways, I guess that's another discussion, but I thought we'd kind of end with this. By the way, thank you, Dave. The most easy to agree with statement in any podcast about goalie collecting and player collecting. Absolutely. Player collecting is fun. Dave just has 25 player collections as opposed to our one, but his collection is pretty impressive too. So why don't we, and I can even put up a picture of a goalie while we grab these, unless you have them all handy and somebody wants to start. I was thinking we could show 3 to 5 cards that, just kind of a showcase thing. I was going to go grab that cup card. I think people should see that. If we try to look for maybe something that these cards offer that's unique, especially with those Panini cards, you've showed a button and a 101 tag. I mean, it's hard to top those. But if you guys have some cards there that, either mean a lot to you or just super unique, it'd be great to show off some cards in the PC that you all have for sure. Go ahead, Andy. You got that smile. Man. Go for
Sounds
it,
good. Yeah, I'm scheming right now. So
scheming. Go for it. I can hang tight until people are able to bring some cards back, because I know we kind of all just got off school and work.
Yeah,
this happened. But everybody can see Nick's wall, though. I mean, look at that. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah, gorgeous.
I think we've all thought about doing something like that for sure. I definitely should set up this computer in the main room someday, but another time. What you got there, Nick? You want to start us off?
Sure. This is kind of unique. It's one of the President's Choice. What the hell's my freaking camera on here? There it is.
That's okay. That's awesome, dude.
I got the glare there. I'm on my tablet, so the camera's not very good. But anyway, it's got game use tape, and it's actually it's pretty cool. It's got it's beat up. You can tell it's actually been used, and there's not that many game use tape cards. I mean, I know there's a few, but it's the only one of only 2 that I know of with Brasso, and the other one I don't have. It's from Artifacts from 1 year.
If I have it correct, the President's Choice guy was it in the game back in the day, right?
Yeah, Brian Price is his name. I actually met him at I went to the Expo in Toronto 1 year and met him. He's a nice guy.
Is he?
Yeah.
His cards are great about a Tebow like that, and I have to say the quality is really nice.
And it's funny that you mentioned, well, not funny, but earlier you mentioned that, Panini had a lot of love for Brasso. But, he and I talked about Brasso, and he said one of the reasons that he would always try to put Brasso in sets is because he knew that there weren't a ton of his, cards currently being made. And he knew that there were, a lot of Penguins fans and a lot of guys that would, actually buy it. So
I'm glad that people think about stuff like that, man. That's so important to think about the collector, as a collector, for sure. Andy, do you have a card you'd like to show? And then I'm gonna go grab a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is 4 legends on a card. I picked this up I think my first or second week I was working at AJ's Sports and Cards. Check out that beauty right there.
That's awesome.
So you got a quad patch, Jacques Plante, Rogie Vachon, Patrick Roy, and Carey Price, and I just love that patch on Price. The 101 stamp as well. Carey Price was the reason why I started playing goal. Like I wanted to be a goalie. So just to have something like this with Carey on it is pretty significant for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Man, just to think about like the history on that card, like how old are those pieces of jersey, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is nuts. That is awesome. That was awesome. This was the overshadow I was talking about earlier for you guys. You just take a look real quick. As far as like, Panini making cards that stood out, I feel like Upper Deck did a really good job with this set.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't know. Love that bright blue ink that they use. Love it.
Agreed. Yeah, I love it.
It almost looks fake, doesn't it? Like it almost looks like it's printed on the card itself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And at first I'm like, is that really like actually on card and the certification on the back? And then you look at an angle and you can see it's like a blue paint and it's standing up off the card just slightly. I got a price for this and it was the most I'd ever paid for a Fleury card at the time. I think it was like $200, but I was like, absolutely. But in the last few have sold for right in that range. So it was 200 Canadian. So it's actually cheaper than what they go for with USD, but had to have it. I mean, I remember seeing this design. I'm thinking that will be my first Fleury Cup card I buy. And it was. So
yeah. You picked a good one, man. That is a gorgeous card.
Thank you. I'll definitely link you up next time I see one on there because I think you'd be, even though I don't know if you collect his Vegas stuff at all, but there's definitely some out there of Hellebuck, and I know there's one of Merz Lincoln's out there, and there's a bunch of Bobrovskys out there. But sorry, Sergey, don't dig your setup. Nope, not gonna own it. Not for that much. But how about you, Nick? You got another one there like to show?
Yeah, just I mean, it's nothing too spectacular, but since we were talking about designs of Panini, this is from these are from 10-11 Limited.
Oh yeah.
Just nice cards, and then there's that's the base, and then that's the auto numbered to I think 10. Yes, 10. And then just a couple more parallels. I mean, what I like about these, there's the camera, is I've never seen this picture used on, I know there's no other Brasso cards with that picture used. And it's just, they're nice basic cards. They're the normal, 20 point. They're not thick or anything.
Right.
And when you see them in person, they have a little bit of the holographic background and just, nice Panini cards. And like I said, limited certified had some beautiful cards, but the resale value just sucked. Like, you'd buy a box and you might get 10% of your money back just because, the resale value just wasn't there.
Right.
Which is because, the cards are great.
I think for us player collectors, we love seeing those come up of our guys just because they're so nice to look at, and this is a question I did want to ask, and I'm so glad you reminded me. And Andy, I definitely jump right in here, man. Yep. I feel like I also love looking for pictures of Fleury, whether it's in a certain setup or doing a certain save or in a certain pose, whatever profile shot. That adds to me wanting to get those cards. Just like Nick said, never seen a picture of Barrasso like that in a Buffalo uniform. Have you found cards of Pickard where you're like, that's cooler because of the way he looks on the card?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 13-14, I think he only had backed up in 2 games the previous year. So both Panini and Upper Deck had maybe 5 photos to choose from. That's why it's so repetitive. And, I mean, I love my Pickard cards, but like, it's just, the same pose almost on every single card.
Like down like this.
Yeah,
right?
down like that, or he's on his in his butterfly. So definitely, there's a couple of cool Team Canada cards I know that he has that from I think it's the Canadian Tire set they threw him in that I really love because it's him making a save with the blockers. So
Nice.
definitely, yeah. As Nick said, like seeing that picture of your guys in a different pose, it definitely adds to the card for sure.
Definitely. Well, what else do you have set aside that we can see?
Are we going with me or Nick?
Yeah, Andy, go for it. Andy, yeah.
So this card just shows how how cheap guys can be picked up, but how quickly they can explode. And I'll give you guys both a guess as to how much I picked this up for as soon as it came out.
All right.
I love this card. I don't think I'm gonna ever part with it. We'll see. But
everything's for sale for the right price. A $500,000,
exactly.
$500,000 will take care of it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Go ahead.
So
Nick.
this is 14-15 cup. I remember my boss opened up a ton of it, and I'd seen Vasilevsky play at the World Juniors. Was the first round to Tampa, and I just thought, how much would you want for this? And he gave me a price in Canadian that I just could not refuse.
And this is that time. This is when he was a rookie, and it just came out. So Ben Bishop is the starter at this point.
Yeah,
correct. I think as he phrased it that way, I'm going to say like 75 or something crazy. What do you think, Nick?
I was going to say 80 Canadian.
You're both close. He said, and I quote, "I'm not letting it go for less than 60." And I said, done deal.
What is that now? 1,000 Canadian? It's got to be maybe more.
Oh man, yeah, right? Probably at least 400 back-to-back cups, Conn Smythe. Wow. So,
wow, dude, good job. I mean, he's an impressive goalie. Everybody, go look at his Intimidation Nation card. I want it to be a surprise. It is the funniest picture you'll ever see on a card. But he is a goalie. When I watch him, I'm sure we've all said this about certain goalies. Watching him play against Carolina 8 times, 10 times last year. I asked myself with him just as much as for how does he get there? Like he's kind of a bigger, burlier goaltender. Mm-hmm. How does he get there? And he just his ability to get and make tough saves, I think, puts him right at the top of the best goalies in the league.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I go back to the save he made it against LA. I think he stopped Kopitar. I could be wrong, but it's the one where he was in the splits and he reached his glove behind his back and caught it and held on to it.
Those types of saves are the saves that you can just understand that everything going through their head in that split second, knowing that the only place that puck could be is right there, and being able to do that. I think Fleury had one where he did that, but he just smacked it out. Like it was coming down from behind him, and he went like that and smacked it out of going in the net. Just like, how do these guys know this? I mean, it makes me wonder too, Nick, if Barrasso were to play in today's game, do you think his game would change a little bit more? Because he was more of a stand-up guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, but he allegedly he was one of the first quote-unquote hybrid guys. Like, not to say that 80s guys wouldn't use the butterfly on occasion, but like he and Wah, I guess, were two of the guys that would actually go down to the butterfly relatively frequently. And obviously he'd have to play the butterfly style nowadays because everybody does, really.
Right. Well, do you think he'd probably be successful though, right? Like he wasn't a tiny guy, was he? I mean, wasn't he 6'2", 6'1", or
listed at 6'3", so he was tall.
Right.
So
I think he would have done well, especially because he kind of played a hybrid style in essence, and he was an athletic guy, so
for sure.
I feel like he would have done really well.
Heck of a puck handler, I'll say. He was a hell of a puck handler. I remember seeing, some vintage games of him in Buffalo, and he would just go behind his net, move the puck quickly, avoid the forecheck. Yeah, great with the puck.
Carl, NHL record. Thanks for that. What was that? Say it again, Nick.
NHL record for most points by a goalie. I think 47 or 48 assists.
Yep. All time.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Career, he has 47 assists. Dang. Well, I mean, when you're passing the puck up on a long pass to Yager and Lemieux, I think you're going to have Ron Francis and Paul Coffey. The list goes on.
He absolutely stacked teams back then. Man, they were good.
Oh, and they just defenses weren't, not to take anything away, but defenses definitely were a little more porous, and so you could get that puck up there, and Lemieux just one-on-one and break ankles, and just beat the goalie, and he must have had so much fun sitting in that, just sitting there, with his hand, just watching his team just smoke in the regular season. I think, Nick, I want to say you have a version of this, or maybe even a copy of this. There is one ending in a couple of days, so if you don't have it, maybe take a look. But as a Pittsburgh fan, knowing that Fleury made that iconic save, which isn't on a card, I wish it was. This is pretty much second on the list, and it has to be this card right here.
I've had a couple of those on my want list, and I've gotten outbid because although I don't really I do occasionally look on eBay for Fleury, but I just like Penguins cards with guys holding the cup, whatever year it is.
Right.
So
right. I'll definitely link you up on that one that's ending.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That's a super sharp card.
I mean, any pictures of our goalies doing something that is a big achievement, whether it's like if Andy found a picture of, Calvin making a save in the game, he had a shutout, like that carries a lot more weight. Of course, our goalies holding the cup above their heads, like that's the pinnacle of achievement in hockey. It was offered to me on a guy in a Facebook group, and it was a little more than I wanted to pay, but I'm thinking, geez, if he ends up winning the Vezina and wins a cup this year, I'm not going to get it any cheaper ever again. So it's a pretty easy decision, Let's see.
And it's always risky to buy, during the season.
Yeah, it was a bit scary there for a bit, as you guys can imagine, because he's winning games and
for sure
his prices going up, and then the Montreal game happened, and prices came back down to earth, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. So
only takes one game.
Yeah, well, you know what? He made a bunch of great plays, and if they'd have scored a couple more goals, nobody would have given two craps about that gaff. They still would have won, but should have, would have, could have.
Yep.
I've got two more that I can show together if you guys are wanting to do one more round of that. Feel free to include one or two if you want, and then we'll kind of wrap it up for today. So, Nick, you want to go first, and then we'll go to Andy?
Andy, you got anything near you? I just got to grab something.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Actually, before I start, Matt, I just wanted to say I still cannot believe there are no cards of Fleury out there with that save he made in 2009 against Lidstrom. Like, that was literally seconds left. He dove over, stopped the puck.
Right in the shoulder.
Yeah.
or the flying glove save from 2 years ago. They've never put that on a card either. Not yet, at least. I know Upper Deck,
there you go.
They have to get that on a card somehow. Like that with an autograph, that card would be insane.
Yeah, authentic moments, right? Authentic moments.
I want it so bad. But anyway, thank you for mentioning that.
So I have actually three, and it is the Dominion printing plate. And I'm one away from the rainbow, and I can't, for the life of me, figure out where the last one is.
Dude, and that's what you said from Dominion, right?
Yep.
Is there a chance it's in sealed boxes still?
There could be a chance. There's a tiny chance, yeah. Because I don't know how much Dominion was cracked worldwide, but it's out there somewhere.
Was that the first Dominion year they did it? The first year they did Dominion?
I think it was the fourth or the fifth. I can't remember.
There has to be some of that out there.
I'll show it up for Nick when we're done here. So the story with the Dominion RPA for Calvin was that it was damaged and it wasn't made. So these are the only copies of that RPA that's out there.
No shit, that's awesome.
Wow. So he doesn't have a real RPA?
He doesn't have a real Dominion. It's just a printing plate.
How could his whole run be damaged? How many do they make? 99?
That sounds about right. 99 or 199.
How does that whole run? That must have been the sheets that went through.
Yeah.
The machine had a meltdown and that was it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Bummer, dude. Well, at least you have those. Those are incredible, dude.
Yeah. One I got off of I think ComC's eBay.
Okay.
And then the other two came from Tim. So
Of course, what he found, he can find any card. Like I should ask him. Like, hey, Tim, can you look out for this? He'd be like, yeah, I'll find it within a week.
Yep.
This guy's crazy.
Absolutely.
Man. Cool. Well, it's cool to see a rookie plate patch auto of a goalie. It's something I'll definitely not own, but that's cool, man. Thanks for showing those. What about you, Nick? Did you grab another one to show off here for the last round?
Yeah, this was actually one of the first cards I posted when I made my IG account. It's from 13-14 Between the Pipes. It's the Masked Men auto. It's gold, 1 of 1.
Oh,
I really like the drawing of him in his USA gear, and I don't think there's a lot of 1 of 1s with him wearing his USA gear. I can only think of one other one, which I don't have. So this one's pretty sweet, and it's probably a top 5 card of mine.
Quick question about that: who did the artwork of him on those, or who did the artwork for the goalies in that set?
Good question. I don't know. But
is
just,
it like,
look.
Is it like an actual picture that was made artistic, or was it a legit, like a hand-drawn picture for that set? Because that's really cool.
Looks like it's was actually drawn. I know they used it on a couple different cards, but I actually think it was drawn. It's not like using Photoshop or Paint.net to make an actual picture look like it was drawn. I think it actually was done by hand.
Awesome. That's cool, man. And as you know, Andy was talking about with his art, like I have a little soft spot for seeing art on cards. Like there's a Upper Deck Fanimation of Fleury that is number 3 on my top whatever want list. I want that just because it's an artistic rendition of him, and it's got Vegas stuff behind him, like just it's perfect. So I definitely dig that. Cool. Well, I guess I'll end with my first big card that I bought of Fleury when I decided to collect him, and then a card that means a lot to my dad. But as you all know, SP Authentic, they are kind of frustrating boxes to open, and I'll never open one.
Yeah.
But there are the limited patch autos in there with the foil and stuff are gorgeous cards. So the first one is this one. This was the first big Fleury that I bought, and you guys can already tell, like, it means something extra to me because he's smiling in the picture. I just love that with him. But like the foil and stuff on there, I know it's not the craziest patch, and I'm okay with that. Absolutely stunning card. I bought a few cards from this guy. He's a really, really nice guy, and he's giving me good prices for sure. But the last one I'm going to show is a tribute to my dad because he's got a new album coming out in a week from tomorrow. And one of the songs on his album is called Flower in the Desert. And you might think that's kind of a weird name, but my only I have 2 scripted Fleury cards, and this is one of them right here. And I showed this to him, and he's like, that's the coolest card I've ever seen. So if I can ever find one for like a really good price, I'll have to send it to him. But so he made a song called that, and it's his most like complex song that he's ever written. So thank you, Marc-Andre Fleury, for inspiring my father to write an awesome song. I kind of thought it would be cool to play that song at the beginning of any of these episodes in the future, kind of like, you know, how podcasts have that intro with a timer. I think that would be pretty dope. But cool. Well, I guess I kind of want to end with this. We all met through Instagram, and I want to give us a chance to kind of, you know, touch on what that means to us. So Andy, I'm gonna start with you, man. Like, what has being able to share your collection on Instagram and connect with Tim and all these other people, like, what does Instagram mean to you as a collector?
Oh, a great deal. I met a ton of great collectors who share the passion with me, and I think that's the most important part. Like, yes, my collection is nice, but I think I value the interaction so much more, you know, with you, Matt, with you, Nick, and a few of the other guys that I've met, guys and girls that I've met through Instagram. Gage, who's the big McKinnon collector, Paul, who's the big, you know, serial number collector. There's a bunch of them out there, and you know, if they're watching, I just want to thank them. You know, just bottom of my heart. They really helped me going in this hobby, and you know, when I came back into the hobby around McDavid rookie year 2015, I never thought that I have the collection I have and be able to interact with the people that I have. So I think that's the most important message of all for me.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I mean, Nick, I think you're kind of going to echo some of that too, right? Like, what has it been like for you? What's it mean to you to be on Instagram sharing your Brasso collection?
You hit the nail on the head, Matt. I'm going to echo what pretty much what Andy said. A lot of great people. The one thing I'll add is just how easy it is, to take a minute and post a card, do a quick caption on it, as opposed to what I used to do. Like when I post cards on forums, it just takes longer, and I never felt like doing it. But now it's like, hey, I figure I'll show a card, and if I've got a picture of it already, I'll just upload it. If not, I'll walk down to the man cave, find the card. Takes a minute, and then another minute to do the post. So and then you get people get to comment on it if they want. It's just cool it's just easy to chat with my fellow nerds.
That's right. I like that you say that too, because we are nerds about cards, but that's not a bad thing, man. It could be way worse. I think too is, and again, we joked about this too, Nick. Like, it's the best part about it is the connections you make with other collectors. Because if you were just selfishly collecting and like, oh, my collection's so amazing, look how much better it is than everybody else's, I feel like ultimately you would get nothing out of it at the end.
And there are some people that are like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
But like, just kind of getting off topic, but like, for example, I think I talked about this last time. I got a DM from a guy, and he's like, hey, I got these 2 Brasso auto patches from the Ultimate Icons.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, I need those. And he's like, I'll tell you what, he's like, I'll do 2 for, some awesome, I can't even remember what it was, but it was an awesome price. He's like, you have an awesome collection. These belong in yours. And he could have gone on eBay and gotten probably more for just 1, let alone 2. So, it's nice to interact with people like that.
Oh man, and that's, you're right. You nailed it, man. Like, people reaching out. I have some cards that are in the display cases. They're nice. They're really nice, but they were sent to me as like from the kindness of people's hearts. And those are the cards that I'm leafing through. I'm like, oh, I remember this, and it's the community has been beyond anything I could have expected. It's funny though, because I reached out to Nick the first time, and before you really know who you're talking to, you don't really, you kind of just short with each other. You don't know, but it's been so cool to at first being like, well, I wonder what this Brasso guy's like. You get to know these people and like, man, this guy's super cool, and he's got all these stories. And again, Nick, you're the best seller on Instagram, because you say either you're going to pay this or don't waste my time. And I love that, because guys are always trying to like haggle. It's like, look, this is what's available. And I took that approach for the most part to selling my A-Rods. I'm like, I'm going to be like that. I'm going to go there. This is what I want. Take it or leave it. And it's like, oh my God, this has been so much nicer. And so just getting to meet people though, man, and know their collections, and why, Andy, like why you collect Pickard. I can't wait. Like, I'm even more excited to see that shield than I ever would have been prior.
So
like, it's going to be cool, but it's so cool to see the connections that you have with the player that you're collecting. Like, that's been awesome to find out. And like you said, Nick, you both said it. Like, throwing up a post on Instagram, you get some comments and you get to connect with people. And Nick, you were talking a lot about the Panini stuff, and then I see Andy's Panini cards. I'm like, these are some guys that understand Panini being great, and then you get a guy come on and be like, yeah, Panini sucks, in your comment section. You're like, I mean, I don't know, really? Do they? Like, let's talk about why, but yeah, Instagram has been one of the biggest surprises I've ever had, and probably got me into collecting hockey more than I ever thought I would have, to be honest. So much more personable on there, as opposed to baseball and football. You don't see a lot of people say much. And
just to go along with that, like I made an Instagram account, a personal one, years ago, and I never really used it until like 2 years ago. And I was considered making a account to show my cards, and I thought, isn't that kind of like conceited? And then I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and look. Then I saw that there's so many people that do that, and I'm like, well, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and do it. And it's been, like I said, I love, chatting with, people like you, and just, it's so easy to share your cards,
Yeah.
And you know what, Nick? I think. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead, Andy.
I think, Nick, that raises a good point. Is, for all the future collectors out there, don't be afraid to get started. It doesn't matter if you have 10-cent cards or something worth more. Just get started, post some pictures, throw up some nice comments on other collectors, and see what interactions you have. I think we all start at square one at some point, and look at where we are now.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, Andy, with low end cards, because I'm not trying to speak ill of anyone at all, but I see people that post nothing but super high end cards, and not that none of us are social media influencers, and talking about followers makes me feel like a douchebag. Excuse my language, but these guys have 200, 300 followers, and then I go and I see somebody that I follow that posts all kinds of stuff from the card that you couldn't give away from 9091 Pro Set to and stuff, and they've got 4,500 followers. And I agree with that. I think it's more interesting to look at a little bit of everything as opposed to just McDavid auto patches, which are nice to look at, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's nice to see, different things as opposed to the guys that I only flip cup patch autos. It's okay, then have fun flipping. And that's cool. I don't have an issue with that. Those dudes just come off as kind of a little, conceited to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with you on that. I'm going to give a shout out to Asian hockey card. What is his username? Asian hockey card collector. Is that what
he has an incredible collection?
And
it's incredible.
Right. It's not the fact that he's posting stuff like this all the time. These are rare birds. He'll post a base card and he'll give you the whole rundown, who the player was, where they played, what stats they had, why that card, if he has a connection to that player somehow. I love that kind of stuff, man. I eat that stuff up. I know hockey card nostalgia. Miles is the same way. They post. If you're going to post a 9091 Pro Set card, well, tell us about it. What's that card mean to you? I try to do that in some form or fashion. If I'm in a hurry in the morning, you might not get much from me. But if I have a flurry card like this, where my dad has written a song about it, I'm going to write about that. And I love reading about what the card means to you. Those are the types of accounts that I will pay way much more attention to than the rookie patch autos of Gretzky and Waugh and Lemieux and McDavid over and over and over again. They have their place, but Andy, do you feel like you're on that same boat? You like the more personal connection?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, me going to a hockey card store as a kid, picking out some singles of my favorite players. There's stories behind these cards, even though they're worth, maybe not a whole lot, but you want to hear about those stories. You want to hear about the interaction and connections you have with certain things, and right. Like we've all been chewing about, Instagram's a great place to do it.
Yes, it is.
It's a great place to do it.
And people are going to be 95 to 99% of the people in the hockey collecting community are more than happy if you reach out to us to help you out in any way, and we'll even look for cards of that player if we might have something lying around. And we like seeing people's collections grow as opposed to, just being, look how amazing my stuff is. It's better than yours. Ha ha ha. I mean, that'll never have any fulfillment attached to it long term. So, all great points. I'm glad we could end on that, because this is where I met you guys and where I find the most joy talking and sharing about the hobby. And again, just a little shout out. Don't be afraid to come out and say something on anybody's page. The commenting is fun because it creates conversation. Nick's commented oh yeah, I remember seeing that Barrasso for the first time. That card is sick, and then it's well, hey, should I go look for something else? And somebody might say, hey, don't be afraid to go look for this card too. There's some really nice ones out there. That kind of stuff is awesome. Or through a PM, those kind of things are so cool, when they happen randomly.
So just quickly about commenting and stuff. There's a guy posts mostly high end stuff, and we've never chatted in a DM or anything. But Dipsy McDangles something.
I gotta find him. I don't know him. I love the name.
Great name. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I always leave a stupid comment like chest pains or an emoji with hearts in the eyes, and he'll always respond back with something smart, and it's cool to have interactions like that.
Yeah, you gotta go for it too. Don't be afraid to reach out and do that stuff. I know we can get into a like fest sometimes, but there's definitely certain accounts where I'm like, or certain posts where I can see like the card arrived after 4 years of searching. I have it's like this guy needs some love. Like people want to be celebrated, and you should also want to celebrate with people because it's amazing. We all know the feeling of that shield, the shield showing up. Like it's a big deal. It's going to be huge. I can't wait to see, that card, dude. That's going to be amazing. So you said next week, right?
Next week Monday. I think you're more excited than I am for that to show up.
Well, because for collecting somebody as a guy who's collected Tebow for a bit.
Yeah.
There is a Jocelyn Tebow collector. If you watch this, I hope 2 belt buckles show up in the same week because we might get a little crazy over that because that's a unique. I don't know if you all have seen those Leaf Pearl buckle cards.
No.
Oh man, dude, you got to look it up real quick if you have a chance. Look up Leaf Pearl buckle and look at the foil that they used on it.
Yeah.
And when they framed the buckle, it's awesome.
Yeah, I think I saw the Terry Sawchuk one a few days ago. It looks insane.
The history in that card. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh man.
Has it already been released or no?
Yeah. Oh, there's you should see some out there. Yeah, right? See?
This Grant Fuhrer 1 of 1. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. So I'm sure a lot of people know about them, but I definitely wanted to make sure that it's one of those cards you see where I'll refresh Tebow almost as much as Fleury. Like, is it going to show up? But there we go. Yep. And then Dave definitely sees the Brodeur. Yeah, they're just so unique. And I would love to see Upper Deck, if I may just say this, and we can play the what if. I would love to see Upper Deck push the limits of the game use stuff. They already do a great job of doing game use, but hey, put the buckles, put the buttons, put, the fight straps, which they did. But put that stuff in there, man.
Oh yeah, for the goalies especially. I was going to say.
Look at that, dude!
Awesome. That's sick.
That's insane.
I agree that
Barrasso of that. Can you imagine the lengths you would go to try to obtain one of those? I don't know how happy your wife would be about the money you'd spend on that, but
Matt,
yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Matt, I was going to say, Upper Deck, start putting in, game used pads, game used blockers, because there's been nothing like that for goalie collectors since the early 2000s. So,
yeah. There's a few, he has an exquisite card. I was actually able to get one for an incredible price. So shout out to, I don't know, I don't want to say his eBay name. That's probably not the nice thing to do, but I was able to find one from 1516 Exquisite. They do that within Black Diamond. There's a pad card in there, but they don't do them it'll be super sparingly. Will you even see one? And I don't know why it's so hard, but tell these goalies, okay, pick one set of pads, maybe get some really nice used ones that you're ready to switch out, or some practice pads even.
Yeah,
Who cares? And send them to us. We want to put them in cards. Do more of that. I'm with you because Leaf nails it, man. Leaf has some sick pad cards, man, and gloves the trappers and the blocker cards. That would be awesome. I think we all as goalie collectors, we're lucky because we have foam from the pads, from the blockers, the trappers, even a skate piece or some shoelaces from a skate, or the ties, the little buckle ties or whatever. So many options.
And plus people would the amount of money people would pay extra just because it was Upper Deck. It'd be a win-win for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I think,
I just don't want them to do, I'm just going to end with this. Please don't do what Topps is doing with Transcendent. Please don't do a $50,000, $25,000 box of cards. Just please don't do that. You're going to price some of us guys that are really passionate player collectors out of having our guy, unless we do a group break or something. There's just no way you're going to get, a goalie or your player out of those breaks. It's not going to happen. Please don't do it. The cup is perfect. Stick with that.
Yeah.
And also, please get Calvin Pickard, Tom Barrasso, Marc-Andre Fleury in some more checklists. Crying out loud. There's guys that'll buy it. Cool. Well, hey, I've had a blast, guys, talking for the last 2 hours with you. We could sit here and talk for hours about goalie collecting our players, but this has been a nice start back on this channel. I definitely enjoy these types of conversations, and I'm sure the three of us will be able to come back on here again and chat it up. So,
definitely.
Andy, first of all, thanks for coming on and showing us your PC and telling us your story. Love it. I hope more people will go follow you. Your Instagram handle's down there, Picks Collector. So check them out. There's a shield about to happen in a week, so prepare yourselves for that. That's going to be sick. And then Nick, obviously love the Penguins connection we have with Barassa. He was the first goalie on my wall at 4 years old. So love seeing your collection, man. It's awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. First time on here, and it definitely won't be the last. I'll say that right now.
Excellent. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you to everybody that commented. I really appreciate the interaction. That's one of the best parts again, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. So take care, guys.
Thanks again, Matt, for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yep.